You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRNTalkRadio.com.
Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
All right, welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. It's 7:07 p.m. Central. Listen to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. We got Wham here with us tonight, representing Hudson Valley. That's right. Yep. We got Joshua Shapiro here with us tonight. Great to have you here, Joshua. And, well, first off, I wanted to just say a few things about this Secret of Skinwalker Ranch show and Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show. Now, I've kept up with Skinwalker Ranch for quite a while with the George Knapp book and all that stuff. And I have the other book, but I haven't read it yet, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I'll get to it one year. But this show, I don't really watch these. I'll watch UFO documentaries. One of my favorite UFO documentaries ever is that Dan Aykroyd, where he's smoking cigars with David Sarita, and they're talking about UFOs. That's one of my favorite ones. I love that one. And there's some other good ones that I like. So I don't normally watch TV shows about UFOs, like maybe like some of the documentary stuff. But I started watching this show, and I think there's genuine phenomenon going on there. Is everything they're showing absolute 100% true? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe. But the thing that's so alarming about this show is the amount of government personnel who are on this show. It's like a John Carpenter creepy thing that they're using this show intermingled with these hearings and our government. And let me just tell you some of the people that are there. Colonel John Alexander, retired. Former governor of Utah, Herbert, I forget his first name. They brought in Tic Tac soldiers who were at those videos that the Pentagon released and had them there. Some of those dudes have their own UFO surveillance thing where it's all built into this vehicle and they track UFOs. They actually had a UFO encounter on the ranch, and one of them got sick. And he said it was the first time he had a UFO encounter since those Tic Tac encounters. But the thing that's so weird about this show is, okay, there's Beyond Skinwalker Ranch where they're going to other ranches now, the Sherman Ranch. Now I'm going blank on all of them, but there's a bunch of different ranches that they're going to that are famous paranormal ranches, and they're having similar phenomenon. And basically, there was a great one with that John Dover, that Navajo policeman that's like a special X-Files unit, and that's his job. And they had a whole episode where a woman was being haunted by skinwalkers and stuff like that. But here's the creepy thing. The two investigators there with this guy that's on the Navajo police are former CIA. And they have no problem telling you that. It's like there's so many weird, it's like a spook festival. But anyway, the next thing that's going on that's weird in Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is Travis, the astrophysicist. I feel like I'm talking about a soap opera. These are the days of our lives, but this is a lot weirder. They brought him on the show, and he's like the blonde leader dude or whatever. And pretty much he kept hidden from them that he used to be the chief scientist on the UAP government study group that the government made, and I guess he also used to work with Bigelow on the ranch on some level, but he couldn't tell everybody until the 4th season, and he came clean about it. And then the whole time during this, you have government vehicles coming in to do surveillance on the people that are doing the ranch now black helicopters that don't transpond. They actually had the Attorney General of Utah on the show to see the footage of these, vehicles that are coming in their airspace that are not supposed to. And he's like, "This is my state. I'll find out who this is." And supposedly he checked on it and they wouldn't tell him, but he figured out where it was at and all this different stuff. But let's just the last thing. The fourth season ended on them using technology. They're always doing scientific crazy stuff with technology I've never heard of, and it seems to be real legit stuff, the technology. But basically the fourth season just ended that their structures under Skinwalker Ranch. They can't go through with a drill. There's like metal structures, and they're saying there's a base there that it's either from an advanced civilization or modern from like our government or something. And basically they're admitting that there's some kind of base underneath this ranch with the governor of Utah sitting at the table, former Bigelow personnel sitting at the table, and he's the guy that coined UAP, he said, and I forget his name. But I'm just saying, no matter what you think about it, it's definitely the weirdest crap I've ever seen on one of these shows. But I think somehow people think they're going to make some big announcements on this show, like disclosure, or they're certainly doing something different, and the government seems to be involved in this show, which should be alarming to anyone. But I'm curious to what Andy thinks, because the last Beyond Skinwalker episode had Chris Bledsoe, and he put out a book that's like UFO God, something like that, but he summons UFOs. And he can do it, and like he'll go outside and do some weird thing, and these lights will appear. And he has some book on Amazon. I looked it up. It's called like UFO of God or something. That's like a bestseller in the Christian section. And they also had the CIA guys on the show, and they were freaking out because he was actually doing it. And they had a neuroscientist hook up this equipment that said that he, looking into his brain waves when he's doing it, because every time he can go out there, and balls of light will appear and do weird stuff in the sky. And they could be spirits, they could be ET in a disc. I don't know what the hell they are. It could be fake. I don't know. But I've had similar stuff happen. That's what's a lot of this phenomenon you see on the show, and that I saw on that episode. I've seen similar things throughout my experiences. But anyway, the guy's Chris Bledsoe, and then here's where it gets creepy with that episode. The whole time, Colonel John Alexander's there on the whole show, like with these things appearing in the sky. So it's definitely crazy. So I don't know what's going on with it. It's definitely a spook fest. I like to hear Andy's take on it, that's for sure. I said, I bet you're having a field day watching this. I was surprised he was watching it to begin with. But anyway, Joshua Shapiro, it's great to have you here. Have you watched that show any at all? Have you kept up with any of that Skinwalker Ranch stuff?
I think on the, the special video channels or something like that, I saw something about it. So I understand the basic essence of what that ranch is about. But I haven't watched the show that you've watched. So, but I know that there's probably many places on the earth that are having phenomena like this. This is not the only one. This is just the one that we get to see. So
yeah, and on that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, they're going to other ranches that have similar phenomenon. Yeah. I've had 3 people on that said there are ranches in the Panhandle or in Florida that are having stuff going on, but the business don't want anyone to know, so they're keeping it anonymous. I've had 3 different people that are in the Bigfoot circuit and paranormal tell me that there's ranches here that same stuff. So it's weird how ranches attracted. I don't know why that is, but it seems like there's some kind of something about it, some kind of weirdness.
Yeah.
And what's really creepy to think about, does China have a place like this where there's a portal? That's also what they're alluding to on the show. There's a portal there, and they have pretty weird thermal evidence of crazy stuff that seems like there is something there, even a UFO going in it and disappearing. So the other countries have places like this, and they're studying it. It's like a giant, like the movie Stargate, with the Russell and all that stuff. But well, first off, Joshua, tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself, a little bit of backgrounds.
Well, first of all, Jeffrey, I want to thank you for having me back. I don't remember when we did our conversation before. It was some time ago. So it's always good to come back. Um, the reason I asked Jeffrey to let me introduce myself is I may come from a different perspective than what some of you are accustomed to on the show. I did see another video that you guys did. And my, the whole point about who I am is I'm a seeker of truth, but I'm coming completely from a spiritual base, which you could say is the paranormal or whatever. But I recognize, and I've had my own experiences, plus I don't know how you would say this, but wisdom or knowledge within yourself, which I think comes from the soul about certain things. Plus, I have two very special experiences that have happened to me. So most people know me as a crystal skull explorer. That's what you see by my name up there. Is I've been very involved with studying the crystal skulls, and I believe that they're sacred tools to help to create peace on the planet. But I've been very involved with the paranormal, and what I'm the most interested in right now is I believe that, or at least let's say I got a message from my spirit guides. That's the only way I know how to say it. It says I have what I call the voice that talks to me. And I'm sure as we're having our conversation, there will be certain times where I'm going to hear, oh, you should say this or talk about this. So I just go with that flow. But back in January, the voice which I have trusted for many years, I've been on a spiritual path since my early 20s, which takes us into the early 1980s. I'm 68 right now. It said this year of 2023, the full truth on everything is going to start to be revealed. And so that's kind of like what has been, let's say, catching my fancy, because I'm looking at a lot of things that I don't normally look at. Usually I'm involved with paranormal, UFOs, crystal skulls, but now I'm looking at alternative history, alternative description of how the earth actually may be, the world that we live upon. Uh, Also, are we in a computer simulation? I have all these free ebooks. So every time I went to go look at a new subject, I would make a free ebook. And the reason I was able to do these free ebooks is because being retired and seeing enough money from Social Security, I wasn't really affected by all the crazy things that happened. So I had free time. I'm an Aries. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I want to find out the truth about different things. But the whole key about who I am is when I find out some really cool stuff, some really interesting stuff, I have to share it with people. So, like, I just finished updating another book, free ebook that I put out in 2021, but I updated it so it's now up to like July, called Ideas About What's Really Happening Behind the Scenes. And I took a chance and I put something in there which I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you it explains everything that's ever happened in our life, that's going on in our world. There's a complete explanation in there. I found it on Telegram, and my intuition said I should throw it in there because the key is when you have free ebooks that you offer to people, you don't know who's going to see it. You don't know how that ebook is going to be of benefit to help somebody, because the whole point of all the free ebooks I do, or if I ever get to do like presentations like this online, or sometimes I've done a lot of public talks as well. My goal is, by being spontaneous and going with the flow, that perhaps there will be just one thing that every listener, every person who, for whatever reason, decides to watch this or is here live, that's something that could help them to better understand who they are and their life. And so that's what I would say who I am. I'm a seeker of truth, but I'm coming from a spiritual base, and I totally trust this voice that speaks to me. And I've had two major experiences which show me with no doubt whatsoever that we are headed to a golden age, to a time of total peace and harmony, and it's not that far in the future. And I had two really powerful experiences that show that. So I cannot see anything else. It doesn't matter what crazy things are going on. Doesn't matter if we have wars like we have in the Ukraine, or they're talking about, in Taiwan, China's going to invade, something could happen there. This is not really what it's all about that's going on. We are headed to a period of time of total peace, but it means that we will be able, all of us, to embrace the total essence of who we are, both our physical and spiritual aspect, which would be the spiritual aspect would be connected to the paranormal phenomena, which I assume you talk about on your show. So I don't know. This is the best way I know how to say it. I just am myself. I just try to explain, what I'm involved with. And I thank you for the opportunity. So people will understand when you start asking questions or I start sharing things, where am I coming from? I'm coming from the spiritual perspective, and that the future that's coming to our world is going to be absolutely magnificent. It's going to be like a paradise. And I have ways in which I'm able to see some aspect of it, but I do not know how do we go from where we are today, which is August 4th, 2023, to 2037 to 2040, because this is the period of time that I receive from an aspect of myself that we will see that period of time completely. So that's what I'm inspired to say to start with. So I hope that's appropriate.
All right. And one thing I wanted to ask was, what do we know about the crystal skulls? Like, where do they come from? What are they made of? Is it from other civilizations? Is it? I mean, what do we know about some of the creation stories of them?
Okay, so for people who have not seen, it's not the last Indiana Jones film anymore. It's the fourth one where he had a crystal skull. This is an example of a obsidian crystal skull. No, sorry, it's not obsidian. What is this? See, this is the problem when you get to be 60.
EGA.
It's a blue gemstone.
Okay.
It's not obsidian. It's another name, I think. Anyway, crystal skulls can be made out of any type of gemstone. The ones that are the most famous usually are quartz crystal, but there are modern carvers. This was made by a modern carver. I think it was in China, but I'm not sure because it was gifted to us. And so what the crystal skulls are about is that there were various ancient cultures, Mesoamerican cultures like Mayan, Aztec, Incas, who apparently were working with these human type of skulls. They were basically based upon, I think, very old ones, maybe even back from the time of Atlantis, if your listeners believe in them, that very human-like, like duplicate of a human bone skull. We have one like that came out called the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. That's the most famous. Say Mitchell Hedges took an expedition to Belize, which at that time in 1923 was called British Honduras. And in 1924, his adopted daughter was climbing a pyramid in a Mayan city that had been damaged by an earthquake. And she felt something shining through a pyramid, and they lifted heavy stones and lowered her in. And she brought out the top part of the skull because it's two pieces. The one I showed you is a single piece skull, but there are some that are two pieces where the lower jaw, it's like our bone skull. The lower jaw is separate from the other one. So this is the most famous one. But the key to understand crystal skulls, like I'm going to show you from the back of my first book, Mystery of the Crystal Skulls Revealed, that was done with Bone and Nasserino back in 1989. There's this one, which is made out of amethyst. This is an old skull. This was not made recently. That was found connected to some kind of ruins in Mexico, is what we're told. It's made out of amethyst quartz crystal. This was actually the first one I saw, and it totally changed my life. Because when I was looking at a picture of it, I heard, and again, this is if you believe in paranormal and that there are spirits, that there are other intelligence that exist, including in crystal skulls, because I receive communications from them. Of course, I've been criticized and people have said, don't listen to Joshua, he's crazy. If skulls are talking to him, what is he talking about? But there actually is a living consciousness that has the ability to work through these different crystal skulls. And I'm not the only one that says, like the one I showed you is called the Rabbi. And so I hear kind of, he talks to me in a certain way, and then we have like 29 or 30 other personal crystal skulls. They all have different personalities. But the amethyst one was the first one I saw. And from a picture of it, as I was looking at it, first there was this earthquake. It was in San Jose, California, at a metaphysical bookstore across the street from Rosicrucian Park there. There was an earthquake that happened, and the table that the picture of the skull was sitting on was vibrating. And then as I looked at it, I started to have a vibration happening inside of me. And then I heard the picture speak to me, and it said, "We are returning to help humanity to create world peace. So Joshua, now that you know, what are you going to do about it?" So obviously that's 1983. So we're 40 years later, I'm still doing something about it. Is occasionally people ask me questions about crystal skulls. What are they? Which ones exist? Their history? What experiences have you had? How have they helped people? I mean, all of these things, it's like there's not only this consciousness, but there are special energies around the skulls which change and affect.
Oops,
See,
sorry.
the dog knows that. That's why he's barking. He can feel that energy. No, actually, I'm serious. There have been cases where people brought a crystal skull and there were animals and they were profoundly affected. Like there was, my friend told me when she brought her skull to Australia when we visited there and we were doing some public talks, she was invited to stay in a person's house. And there were two dogs who apparently, before the owner received them, they had been very badly maltreated. You know, they were very sad and emotionally affected. But as soon as the skull came, they like totally relaxed. They sat down by it and they were totally peaceful and calm with it. So there's definitely some kind of special energies that work around these crystal skulls. And so this is the reason why I recommend to people, if there's something about it that calls to them, to check it out, but to have a personal experience and maybe even possibly try to get one of their own. There's a lot of modern carvers now that are making skulls. And we also have too a special carver in India that makes these skulls that, you know, we provide for people. It's actually based on, let's see, yes, I can reach it. It's based on this little one here, which is called Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye. He has Native American energies, is what we found. A lot of people like the style of this, so we asked this Indian carver to make Geronimo Juniors. So, like, you know, we just sent one to Holland, and there's another lady who is going to be receiving one pretty soon too, in a couple of weeks from us.
I have a green one. And
You have one?
Yes, I have a green one. It's kind of like, I don't think it's jade, but it's green. I'm not sure what it is. I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the different kind of gemstones. So have you had any experience around it, or it's just something that
it's just
draws you?
something I can't remember any specific experiences, but I know I like to put them out just to try to, you know, get some positive energy going. That's the main reason I have them.
Well, I'll give you a suggestion for that. So if you go to our website, you're going to find all kinds of pictures of different crystal skulls on there. All you have to do is see, which one do you feel an affinity for? That's on the website. You print that picture out, you take your skull and leave it on top of that picture for 24 to 48 hours. Then come back to it and do a meditation or hold it, or, you know, whatever you feel to do, and see if you feel a difference. There is a certain type of device. It's called a meridian stress test system. I had access to it when I was in Chicago. A friend had it there. And also when I was living in Holland. I was living in Holland for a while. And I was actually married to a Dutch lady for a period of time. We knew some people there who had this device. What this device does is it's used by health practitioners. And it measures the meridian energies on your fingers and your toes. Okay, and it's very accurate because your body will not lie. If you have some problem, you know, physical problem, emotional problem, even with your aura, this device is able to measure those frequencies, and it can tell based on a number. Like it reads a number from 0 to 100, where 50 is absolutely in perfect balance. And if you're under 50, it's a certain deficiency, and if you're over 50, it's like an excess. Okay, so but these numbers never align. So what we did is we had this device in Holland, and we were inviting people, and we were blindfolding them, and we were doing 3 different tests with them. I think it was like 40 measurements, 40 different measurements on their hands and feet. And we had them blindfolded. We had them holding a piece of quartz that was the same type of quartz as the crystal skull they were being tested with. And we just found that when they were blindfolded and they didn't know what it was that they were holding or what they were touching, that when the skull was introduced, there seemed to be a higher frequency of improvement in their readings than just with the piece of quartz. And of course, we did it with nothing, so you had a baseline reading, so you could see how the person is normally and what happened when they were with the skull. And there was a group of spiritual healers in Holland too that we had an opportunity to work with, and every one of them showed some improvement when the skull was introduced, except for one woman. She was like pretty much in balance on everything, so there wasn't really any other improvement you could give to her. She was already there by her own energy. So this was some tests that came up that showed us that yes, these skulls seem to have some kind of vibrational frequency or energy around them that is able to impact and work with people, and especially if they're one of these very old ones that are discovered, like by the ancient ruins of mines or etc. Those, like the Mitchell Hedges skull, I believe, is from Atlantis. It really has unbelievable frequencies of energy connected to it.
And what is your website? So everyone, if they want to look now, what's the website?
Should I type it in the comments area?
I'll just say it. I mean, it's
a little bit complicated. So it's the letter CSE, like Crystal Skull Explorer, CSE dot crystalskullexplorers.com. So again, it's CSE dot crystalskullexplorers.com. So that's our website. You have a lot of articles there, a lot of pictures. Have some books that we sell too. There are some books that we sell besides the 9 free ebooks, and we do have a free ebook on the crystal skulls, which you could find there, as well as an online newsletter also that we do. So that's our website. Okay, so
thank you.
Yeah. So one last comment before your next question. Why are the crystal skulls important? Somehow, in some way, this vibrational frequencies that they hold, which can also be sacred wisdom and knowledge, as well as healing energies and energies to enhance us, they're going to play a key role in bringing world peace to the world. This is what the skulls have told me when I received telepathic messages from them. And so for right now, they're basically tools helping people to awaken themselves to their divine spiritual gifts. That's what I see them doing. But we've had a lot of times where we've done world peace meditations, where we've had, I don't even know. I know there was the Crystal Skull World Day. I'm sure there were thousands of crystal skulls that we had amongst all the people who participated with us. Because I know there was one group in Canada, in Quebec, where they had over 1,000 crystal skulls in one room. So we use that to help to create world peace and to, amplify. That's what quartz crystal does in electronics. It amplifies an electrical current. So it's also amplifying the natural energies around us as well. Because we have, electromagnetic frequencies as human beings. And I believe that that's part of what the crystal skulls do. So, it's hard in 10 minutes or 15 minutes just to say what this is when you've been involved for 40 years and you've had so many experiences around it, and it just keeps going. And we keep hearing from people all the time who have their own skulls, that have their own different experiences with it.
Has there been any UFO activity related to the skulls, like people having those kind of experiences or anything like that?
Yes. So I'm just going by something that I remember from all these experiences. So there was a man that I met. This was really crazy. So I went to Las Vegas in, I guess it was like 1988, 1989. My sister was getting married, and I, I, I believe I gave a talk at a local center, and this Hispanic man came in and was very quiet, but then he said to me, "By the way, I have a crystal skull." Oh, well, of course, if somebody comes up to you and you're studying this, you're going to go, "Of course, I'd love to see it." So he actually showed the skull and then he told a story. Now, part of his story relates to what you just asked me. So that's why I'm bringing this up. So, first of all, his crystal skull was discovered when he was a young boy. He went on a field trip. He was from Mexico. They went on a field trip to Mayan ruins, and he picked up a stone, and there were two crystal skulls underneath it by these Mayan ruins. So the teacher let him keep it, and he kept it for a long time. And then he had some serious health challenges, and he worked with his crystal skull, and he got completely healed by it. But he told me that one time, and I don't remember the exact circumstances because I've lost touch with him, that he was out, and I believe it was in Mexico, and he had the skull with him, and a UFO did show up and appear to him while he had that crystal skull. He described that. Now, when I have spoken to various other people who are, let's say, researchers of crystal skulls, and we talk about where do we think these crystal skulls came from? Now, we're talking about ones that are very old, like maybe the Mitchell Hedges skull, or some of the ones that are almost exact duplicate to human bone skull. And what comes back is from researchers and also from spiritual mediums who are in the presence of these skulls, where they're reading the energy of them. They say, we believe that it's very possible there was an original set of crystal skulls, and usually the number 13 comes up, that was gifted to humanity by, I don't call them extraterrestrials, I call them galactics, by galactic beings. And they gifted us these crystal skulls as a tool to help humanity in its spiritual evolution and growth. So one of the theories that comes up around the crystal skulls, where they may be coming from, is there are gifts from the gods. And the gods could be our galactic brothers and sisters, or these extraterrestrials who are visiting them. Another clue that comes up is there is another crystal skull held by a lady in Arizona called Synergy that does not look like a human bone skull. It looks totally alien-like. It has a elongated face and the head and the whole thing. So it's possible that some of the skulls could actually be somebody created a replica of alien beings they've seen. And the Mitchell Hedges skull, also, the co-authors of my book, Mystery of the Crystal Skulls Revealed, I showed you before, Bone and Nasserino, they got to spend time with the Mitchell Hedges skull, like in the late 1980s, when Anna Mitchell Hedges, the Guardian at that time, was living near Toronto, and they were taking pictures of the crystal skull. And the crystal skull, when color, light, and sound was emitted to it, was reflecting back holographic images inside of it. And they were seeing UFOs. They were seeing UFOs over Mayan cities. They were seeing extraterrestrial beings. So it's very possible the crystal skulls could also be acting as a video camera that's able to record activities that are happening around in their presence. And if the right frequencies of energies are sent at the skull itself, then it could start to replay these type of images. So these are just a couple of stories I can think of. And plus, I have a very strong connection with galactic beings. And I believe that in other lifetimes that I worked with galactics and the crystal skulls. So for me, these two subjects are interconnected very strongly. That very possibly some of the most important crystal skulls humanity has may be gifts from our galactic brothers and sisters. So we need to do a lot more research on this. And of course, it would be nice if we had more scientists involved. But there was one archaeologist I met who met the Mitchell Hedges skull that said that he can't talk about his experiences around it because he would be shunned in his profession. People would not believe him because he had paranormal experiences around the Mitchell Hedges skull. So, and I have had the same with some of my own and also with that one too. So, you know, when you talk about paranormal experiences, though, the key is that this is your personal experience. There's no way that you can definitely prove it. So usually the only way that people believe you is to go, oh, you know, Joshua, I had an experience just like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. So any of the experiences I've had is not just for me. I mean, there are other people when I go out and I start talking about these things and I share experiences, there are other people who will come up to me and say, I've had very similar experience with crystal skulls, just like you described. So there is definitely special energies around them.
Well, they're definitely fascinating. I have one. I think I got it off eBay. I don't. It looks pretty cool. It's thick and green. It's small though. You got any
Well,
crystals?
size doesn't matter, Jeffrey. I've seen little tiny ones that are super powered and big ones that have no energy whatsoever.
Yeah, they got interesting ones on. If you pull them up on eBay from all kinds of different places, it's kind of neat to look through for sure. You got any crystal skulls, Wham, hiding in there?
No, I've actually never been that interested in them. So,
Yeah,
although it's interesting to hear, about all of the stuff surrounding them, because since I haven't ever really been that interested in them, I didn't know that much about them. So.
it's not for everyone. And after you have an experience with one, then you become much more interested. It was the same for me. I mean, I knew about Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, where he had a picture of the Mitchell Hedges skull and his show where he would show that skull. But until I met that amethyst one that I showed you, I didn't really have a strong connection with him. But after I had that amethyst skull talking to me from its picture and giving me the message, then everything changed. So it's kind of like the same thing that happens when you're opening up to your spiritual part. You have a sequence of events that happen to you that it's like you're not really looking for it, you're not prepared for it. It just all of a sudden happens, and all of a sudden your life goes in a completely different direction. So
Well, I've certainly had that experience with other things. I mean, that's what moves people on their spiritual paths in other places. And I, when I was involved with the, I guess you would say the psychic community. I don't know what else to call it. That's how they referred to it. The New Age community in Kansas City, Missouri, and worked at a metaphysical bookstore for a number of years. We had crystal skull people come through. So I've certainly been in their presence, but they've just never interested me very much. So, it's like, there are other things that interest me. So that's,
right.
you follow where you have those experiences.
Exactly. And that's what I've also found too. Like, some people will come to a lecture and, it's interesting. But some people will come and they will have such a powerful experience that they did not expect. Thank you for sharing that, Jeffrey.
Hello, Joshua. It's pretty nice. It's heavy and it's some kind of
Well,
stone.
sometimes when they're heavier, it's because they're holding an energy. Like like the first personal crystal skull I got, which is too heavy for me to hold. My hands shake too much at 68. It's like 10 pounds. When I brought him home, he was like 12 or 13 pounds, and then all of a sudden he was 10 pounds, actually measuring him. Yep.
See it, Wham?
Let me see.
Hello, Wham.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to know, how do you figure out what it is? It feels heavy, like it's very green. I know it ain't jade; those are like thousands of dollars, but it's some kind of green stone that's pretty nice.
If you go into, I don't know if you have out by where you are any crystal stores. All you have to do is go into a crystal store and you show one of the owners or the people that work there the stone, and I'm sure they'll give you a good suggestion. Or if my wife Katrina was here, she may recognize it. There are only a few gemstones that I'm drawn to: obsidian and I almost am remembering the rabbi now. Um, God, lapis. That's it. He's
Lapis
lapis
lazuli.
lazuli. There we go. Lapis lazuli.
I have some runes made out of that.
Right. So lapis lazuli, I'm drawn to obsidian. I'm drawn to quartz crystals. So different kinds. So just depends. Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like a voodoo doctor shaking his.
Right. So Jeffrey, remember, go on our website and print out a picture that speaks to you and see if you put it on top of that picture for 1 or 2 days. If the energy of the skull changes and all of a sudden now you start having some more of a connection to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
There are
getting
some people who get a crystal skull and they do not feel a connection with it right away, but 2 years later, all of a sudden they get drawn to it and they start having amazing experiences. So it's totally unpredictable. That's why when somebody says, "Oh, Joshua's an expert," I'm not an expert. There are things I know and I share them, but I think in order for us to fully understand everything going on around crystal skulls, we need to have a lot of different people sharing their pieces, and this is the way that we'll eventually fully understand what's involved. But for me, the crystal skulls are definitely a sign of what I was talking about, that we're headed towards this positive future, because that's what I received the message when I saw that amethyst skull, which by the way has a name called to me. I felt like it was telling me we definitely are telling you and want humanity to know that you're going to see this positive future, and we're going to be involved in helping you with it in some way. So I don't know, maybe there'll be, like, I've had a vision of this where there's, different groups of people that have their own skull and they're doing a meditation in different parts of the world, say in sacred places, like on pyramids or sacred sites or whatever. We all do it. I actually have a story that I've written where this happens, where there's a group of people that come together and they do a special meditation, and the world shifts in its vibrational frequency and goes into that period of time of total peace and harmony, because of the meditation that was done with a specific set of 13 crystal skulls. So, and this is something the Mayans, I think, they kind of have like a prophecy like that, that when those specific sacred skulls come together, a major shift in the planet could happen. So perhaps this is the way that they will be assisting humanity. So in the meantime, many people who are drawn to them, they have a positive experience. Think of it as a tool. We all have different tools that we're drawn to, whether it's tarot or astrology or, crystals, working with crystals, whatever it is. It's because we're all unique individuals with unique frequencies of energy. So certain things are going to fully resonate for each of us and other things will not. And that doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just, it doesn't work for us, but it could work for somebody else.
Definitely. And so I guess we want to talk. We definitely want to talk about the UFO hearing some. I'm curious what you think about that. I've seen some of it, but not all of it. I've seen a lot of the headlines. That's definitely seeing that everywhere. Every time I walk by the news on TV I don't really watch regular news, but every time I walk by, they're talking about it when someone else is watching it. So it definitely it's reached new crazy levels. From the Skinwalker Ranch shows that seem intermingled with weird government stuff, to saw some show on Roku. I didn't watch it, but it's called UFO Cowboys. It's like these cowboys that were, I guess, using technology, and now they're tracking UFOs. It seems like we hit some weird evolutionary, bizarre Twilight Zone step with all this somewhere. But I'm just kind of curious. Go ahead.
Yeah, but about the hearing, I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I would say I watched about 40 minutes of it. Okay, because I think it went on for a couple of hours. So first, let me say where I'm at as an individual on UFOs, because then it'll make sense, my comments that I'll be making. I mean, I always do that as a speaker and an author. I just try to say, here's where I'm coming from. So these are why I'm making my comments rather than just make the comment. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to admit this on your show. I know who I am from a spiritual perspective. I've had a number of experiences that have shown me that this is true. Now, whether anybody buys this or not, it explains to me why I have a strong connection to the galactics, why I know I have spirit guides who watch after me that are galactics. So George Hunt Williamson was an early UFO contactee in the 1950s. He wrote some remarkable books. Other Tongues, Other Flesh is the book I'm going to refer to because it speaks about this group of galactics who chose to incarnate on the earth to help the earth to go towards this time of peace. They're called galactic wanderers. The galactic wanderers, as described by George Williamson, is cosmic chimney sweeps who go from planet to help to uplift those people into the light. So what I find is when I do my intuitive consultations with people, a lot of people I speak to are what I call star people. I see it in their eyes. Their eyes are sparkling, and I can feel from their vibrational frequency and also through their eyes that their soul is from another world. And you were just talking about one of the authors, and again, I can't remember his name. I know him very well, but he wrote a book about star people. He and his wife did, and I can't remember their name. But you mentioned it before, I believe, at the beginning when you were talking about, I think it was Bigfoot or something. Anyway, a lot of people have, I believe, are souls who have volunteered, which would be the cosmic wonders also, to be here to help the earth, who have a galactic origin or a galactic soul. So I'm saying this because I want people to understand where I'm coming from. Okay, so I know for myself with absolute certainty, and also it doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever from creator's point of view, that only one planet in the entire reality that exists everywhere has intelligent life. That's impossible. It is not possible that this could be true. Okay. So now the question then becomes, if there is other life, okay, then how come the governments of the world up until recently, which is what you've been talking about with this show, and I think the same thing happened in this hearing, have tried everything possible to convince everyone there are no extraterrestrials. We have not been visited. Nothing is going on. There must be something around these beings they don't want people to know about, which I would say has to do with they would lose their ability to govern this planet, essentially. In other words, if the truth comes out that we're being visited, that these galactics love us, they're our cosmic brothers and sisters on a spiritual level, they want to help us, they want to help humanity to go back to its natural way of evolution, that means the people who are in charge, they'll lose everything. So they've done everything possible to try to convince everyone that they don't exist. However, at this hearing, they did everything possible the reverse. They wanted people to know through the three whistleblowers that came forward that the U.S. government has craft saucers. They have alien bodies. They have seen these craft in the sky. And let us then look at the three individuals that were brought in to talk about it, because there's a certain aspect that I observed about them. And then I'll give you an opinion about why I think this is now coming out. So UFO just
One thing I was just going to say, my mom said on the news, they said some of the people got threatened and didn't show up or something. And that was just like on regular news, and she repeated it to me. So that was kind of weird.
okay. Well, I didn't see any part. All I saw were there were three whistleblowers who came on that were willing to honestly share. They all did. They honestly shared what they knew. Now, there is possibility that there could have been some other ones that were invited that could have been threatened, maybe because their knowledge or information might have been too good. I don't know. I don't know about that part. Okay, so I would have to do some research too on that and see if that happened. So So I'm going to talk about these three whistleblowers as you're viewing them on the screen from your left to your right. So the one on the left, I don't remember. I only remember one person's name because he did an interview before he went on that House committee panel. Debrief was the name of this show where he started talking about these things, which he repeated what he said on that show at the panel. So the first guy, as I understood what he was explaining, is he was debriefing pilots. Okay, he had pilots coming into him who were seeing objects flying in the sky that were not using any kind of technology like we use for our planes. In other words, it was anti-gravity, there was no rockets or any kind of propulsion system that you could see. They were just, in the air, moving around, doing whatever that it was that they were doing. So he would debrief these pilots. And so, pilots have to be very well trained and have to be very good at what they observe, what they see in the sky. And so, these guys are not going to come in and be lying to him. Hey, we're flying our military planes and we're seeing objects in the sky that we don't know where they're coming from. They don't belong to any country that we understand. So that was his position where he was coming from. And he said, absolutely, this is going on. This is not fantasy. These pilots are seeing these things and they're real. Okay, the second person was David Grouse, I believe his name was.
That's
David
it. I
Grouse.
wasn't sure how to say his name, but that's it. That's
I think it was like that, David Grouse. He appeared on Debrief, and on Debrief, he was saying, again, he did not see himself the dead alien bodies or the crabs, but he had seen access to reports that talked about these things. And in the department that he worked with, there were other people who were involved in, doing research on UFOs and everything. And so when he talked with them, and he knew them extremely well, it's like brothers, like Jeffrey, you and I, we're brothers. If we share something, we trust each other. We know we're not going to lie to each other. We're just going to say, here's our experiences. So he had that relationship with these people that he's working with where he knows them very well. And they're saying, I was involved in black projects with UFOs. I saw dead alien bodies and the whole thing. So what he did is he submitted some kind of form that's a request to Congress, which may have helped this meeting to actually happen, saying the U.S. government is hiding this. There should be an investigation done into it. And so then all of a sudden, I think this took place about 2 weeks after his interview. They had this meeting, with the Congress people. The last guy was, I don't know if he was I think he was the Navy. I think he was in the Navy. And he was on board a ship. And he saw what they call the Tic Tac. The Tic Tac is defined as an object that's flying, anti-gravity, no propulsion, but it looks like a gasoline can or something like this. This is how he described it. And they all on the ship, they were all watching this and they were all seeing it. And he was basically saying, look, I'm a pilot. I know everything that's out there. And there is nothing that anybody could have created for this to be seen like we saw it. So in other words, these three people that were talking, one talked about his experience with seeing one. The other two were talking about people that they had talked to. And then when the Congress people would ask them certain questions, DeGrasse would say, under my, whatever is his pledge or oath that he made to the military or to the government, said, I'm not allowed to share that with you publicly, but privately, if you meet with me, I can talk to you about it and I can provide you other information about it. Okay, so now here's the thing. So let's go back to 1947. 1947, Roswell happened. 1947, that pilot in Washington State, I can't think of his name, he saw 9 flying discs by Mount Rainier before Roswell happened. So we had that take place, and then we had Roswell take place. When Roswell took place, a military officer, and I saw a video of him talking about his actual experience, not what he gave to the media, but what actually happened to him, like right before he passed away. And his son continued the investigation into Roswell as well. Major Marcel was the name of this officer, went out. So after Marcel went out and they saw that there was debris of Roswell, what happened is their Air Force base immediately reported, we have a crash saucer, right? And that was in the newspaper and that was on the radio. But then all of a sudden, for the radio broadcast or the teletype, they got a message from some government, do not continue this message. And then all of a sudden a general came in and it was a weather balloon and they took care of it. So what I'm saying is, at least from 1947, the US government has had, probably before, but from 1947, we could say that they've known about this. So if we go from 1947 to 2023, that's what, 76 years. So for 76 years, if you had really good evidence about an extraterrestrial craft or beings or whatever, they would try to shut you down. Okay, they would say you're crazy. They would belittle you. They would try to discredit you or whatever. Now all of a sudden they don't want to do that anymore. So why is that? Now on Telegram, now I can't verify this. I am not working with these crazy people who do all these crazy things that are happening in our world right now. So I can't read their mind, but I can only tell you what I'm seeing on Telegram, which makes sense to me, is according to the people on Telegram, and maybe they're getting it from whistleblowers and they're just putting it out there. And I've actually heard this before from a woman I knew whose father was in the military. She told me about this. They say we have a technology that could fake a fake alien invasion. And maybe this is the reason why all of a sudden they're starting to talk about this, to get people aware that it really does exist, but they want it to be something that comes from fear, okay? Where all of my experiences connected with the telepathic contact and communication that I've had with galactic beings, it's been positive because they're very spiritually orientated and because I know that they want to help humanity to take us to this advanced place. And God, I hid my book here. Who's the lady? Carrie Cassidy. I'm sure everybody knows Carrie Cassidy. Carrie Cassidy interviews these whistleblowers. And she was speaking with Gene Decode, who's someone I've actually interviewed 4 times. We have a center. I don't know if you can read what's underneath my name. There's the Center for the Advancement of Humanity. So sometimes I do interviews like you're doing, Jeffrey. And Gene Decode is a person, and he likes me. I don't know why, but anytime I ask him to do an interview, he usually will agree when he has some free time. So he was speaking with Carrie Cassidy on this one show, and Carrie Cassidy said a very profound comment, which I think is true, which I think is connected to this statement that I just made that I'm seeing on Telegram, which I can't, there's no way I can verify it. I can tell you we have technology that we can make 3D objects in the sky look very real. I've actually seen some video on Telegram where they had like dolphins that were flying in the sky over the people. And also I think in China for New Year's or some special thing, they had a tower. They did amazing 3D images around it. So I believe that we have this technology. So Carrie Cassidy made this comment, which gives a clue, I think. She's talked about with her whistleblowers that we have people helping different groups of humanity, those who are interested in helping to bring total peace and bring us to a spiritual world, and those who are working with, I don't know what you want to call them, the elite or whatever, who have their own agenda for what it is that they're trying to create with all this stuff, and may actually be working for a group of negative, so-called negative ETs. So Carrie Cassidy said the positive ones are allowed to come here and help us because the negative ones have interfered in our natural spiritual evolution of humanity. And from a very high level, this is no longer going to be allowed. So we have two sides now that are working at sharing information about UFOs. We have one who wants you to know it but come from fear, and we have another one who are working with the positive ones, who I think, at least this is what I received telepathically. Again, I can't prove it. And, we're here to express our opinions. I think the very positive, loving, spiritual ones have told the leaders of the government, look, it's totally ridiculous that you're ignoring us and telling people we don't exist when we are very real and very well. So if you don't come clean and tell people the truth, we're just going to come out and show ourselves. And there's nothing that you're going to be able to do about it. So I think we're coming to a very important point in human history around this idea that there are other intelligent beings who exist in other parts of the universe, but they also have been visiting our world, and that we're going to have contact with them. And I believe that the children of the future, they will not be afraid of these galactic beings. They will accept that they will be walking with us here on the earth. That is the vision, one of the visions I have from one of those spiritual experiences I talked about our world. So I think that this is the double-edged sword about what's going on with UFOs, why both sides of this so-called undeclared war that's going on right now between the forces of good and evil, they both are playing the UFO card now. It's gonna come out. We're gonna have more and more proof and evidence of it. They're going to tell people who are working on the secret project, it's okay for you to come clean. Now, also in June, Stephen Greer had his UFO Disclosure 2.0 in Washington, D.C., and he had whistleblowers there. He had one guy that talked about what's going on in Antarctica, which was really fascinating. And they were coming out and talking and telling the truth about these black projects. And Stephen Greer said in his talk, there are over 100 underground bases that are involved in black projects that are working on things to do with technologies and information about UFOs. And this comes from the people who have come and talked to him. So all this information is coming out. This is the message I received in January. The truth on everything is starting to come out. It can no longer be hidden anymore. So that's a lot of information and insight, but that's my opinion.
Well, the main reason Wham's going through storms, so she's got it muted in case the thunder and stuff is really loud, but she may have to drop out if the weather keeps getting bad. But my experience is pretty much that's why I'm here, because I've had experiences, and that's pretty much the thing that I try to keep grounded in the reality of. It's just when you see the government involved so much, it's hard to trust them. We've had Augie Nostal, and he firmly believes that they're trying to do, the fake alien invasion route. But I wouldn't put anything past them, that's for sure. I mean, look at the Tuskegee Airmen. They gave them syphilis. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's why it's hard for me to be political. It's like when you're rooting for the government, it's kind of like rooting for Ted Bundy through one of their representatives, Yay, Ted Bundy. It's hard to feel excited about the murder machine, but it definitely seems like they're up to something. And for me, it feels like a horror movie because I don't know what they're up to and I don't really trust them. But I have had experiences, so I know this phenomenon exists. And I even had some kind of craft come out that was silent with a big cockpit, and the guy waved mockingly and it shot away. And I'm guessing that was a government agency that came out to see why those UFOs seemed to be attracted to me. And that Chris Bledsoe guy, and I think that guy's kind of, I didn't sense anything fraudulent about him. And it was creepy that he's hanging out with Colonel John Alexander. But I've had those same kind of experiences where I have felt like I caused the UFO sighting and they've moved when I've asked them to. It doesn't happen anytime I go outside and do it. I could probably go out there and try, and nothing would happen right now. But in my younger years, my Goldie Oldie sightings, I've had weird stuff like that happen to where I was interacting with them. And so it's just, I guess, seeing the phenomenon is what I try to keep grounded with. But when you have all the government involved, it's like, what are they up to?
Right. So I think the key is that people need to try to stay calm and just acknowledge, okay, it's being acknowledged now. There's other intelligent life, although where that other intelligent life is coming from, that is debatable. Whether it's from other worlds through dimensional doors or whatever. But if there is a fear element to it, if there is like war, like if there's going to be a fake alien invasion, they're going to try to make it look like they're bombing or whatever. Then people just need to know, just like a lot of people I think know now when they listen to the news, most of it's lies. That whatever is going to be told about this, if it gets to this point, I don't know, call them the good guys or whatever. I don't think they're going to allow that to happen. I don't really see that happening, that it's going to go the way that they want to. And I think that's the reason why everybody's talking about the fake alien invasion. See, the whole point is, if a lot of people already are aware that this is going to happen, they're prepared. They're not going to get taken in by it. They're going to go, yeah, we heard about this. We heard that this is going to happen. This defeats the whole point of them doing it. Most of the time, when they try to do things like this, they try to do it in a way where nobody can suspect what's the real reason that they're doing the things that they're doing, you know? And it's getting out of the bag now that they're planning to do this. And so the more people who know about this, the less chance there is that something of that nature is going to happen. See, it's time for our world, instead of having all these wars and disasters and everything. I believe before the end of this year, we're going to start to see totally positive, miraculous things all of a sudden starting to open up. And it's just going to continue. Now, there is one other factor. This comes from one of my spirit guides. I just heard somebody whisper it to me. So I'll say this. The vibrational frequency of our world every day is going higher and higher and higher. And like, for example, there's been discussion about that, like reptilian aliens have been here and so on. But one of the things that I've heard and I believe is true is, as the vibrational frequency of our world continues to go higher and higher as we're moving toward what some people are calling 5D reality, these not so nice galactics, they cannot stand this higher vibrational frequency. They have to leave. They cannot be here. So this is another thing which there are other people besides myself who feel this, that this transformation is going on. And as we get higher and higher, then more and more of the truth comes out. And we start to learn more about who we really are. We're all divine children of God. Okay? We're all special. We all have special gifts. We all have paranormal abilities that the other side has tried to suppress, but they can't do it anymore. So many people are having experiences. And when they have the experiences, they're going, there has to be a reason for this. I got to check into it. I got to look into it. I got to find out, what is it about? I mean, that's what happened to me. When I was in my early 20s, I started having different paranormal and spiritual experiences. And I said, I got to understand it. Why is this happening to me? What is it about? And after basically over 40 years of doing it, I think I have a pretty good handle on what's going on in our world, what's happening, and where we're headed to, and why I feel so strongly we are going to this positive place. Okay. This idea of constant wars and terror and all of that, it's old. It's not working anymore. People aren't going for it. I mean, look how many people are protesting all over the world right now about what their governments are doing. They don't like. Israel is having major protests. Seeing total pictures on Telegram about that. I've seen it happen in China too. France, they also had a lot of protests not too long ago. Holland, the farmers are not accepting the crazy rules that their government is throwing at them to diminish their farms. Okay, so it's like people are not tolerating it. Now, you've probably heard of David Wilcox, right?
Yes.
Because okay, so David Wilcox said something, and I put this in I'm doing a video series called 2023, the year the full truth begins to be revealed. So every 2 weeks or so, I make a new video. I look at current events and I talk about what's happening from a different perspective on the events. But David Wilcox said he talked to, from the elite, whistleblowers. And the whistleblowers told them they have to follow a spiritual law. is very interesting. They, first of all, the elite have to tell you what they're doing, have to show you what their plans are next. So is the elite showing us with the whistleblowers that they're planning to do something revealing about UFOs? It's possible. But what David Wilcock said from the whistleblower, if they show us these things they're planning to do and we don't do anything to stop them or we don't do anything about it, they're allowed to go ahead. But if people say no, I don't give my power away. I don't accept this. I'm not going to tolerate it. They could lose everything. And that's another thing that I believe is going on right now. People are waking up and they're going, I'm not going to accept these crazy things the government or the media is telling me. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't feel right to me. Morally, it doesn't feel right to me. I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to do my own research into it. I'm going to look into it more. So I think this is also part, like what he was talking about in that video that I saw him say this. I believe that this is also going on as well. That as the truth is coming out, people are saying, this doesn't feel right to me and I'm not going to follow it. So we have to pay attention and see kind of what's going on. Like this isn't, I don't know, I'm going to say this, I don't see it as political. I see it as an action that's going to be taken for an injustice that happened. So we all know Trump got he got arrested again, okay?
Yes.
And about January 6th. Okay? And there's still people from January 6th that are in jail. So it's not about political, Republicans, Democrats. But what's going to happen is, as a result of the lawyer who arrested him, he made a major mistake. He is going to bring Trump into trial where he's going to be able to finally show the truth of what happened in that election that he was involved in 2020. Who really won? Where did all the votes go? So again, this is more of the truth coming out. And it's like major stuff is just happening like since May. Like when I do my series, I'm going through what happened in May. And the first video I did was 2022, the whole year. I did the whole year of 2022. But now in 2023, I can only do a couple of weeks at a time because my video goes like an hour and a half, and that's about it. That's about as far as you should go. Give people time to digest the information before you go on to the next one. So the next one I come out with will be from, I guess, towards the end of May to around June 10th or 12th. And just talking about events, what's happening, and some information that they talk about on Telegram. So I believe right now we live in an amazing period of time. We are all having an amazing opportunity for growing and learning about who we truly are, especially the spiritual essence of who we are. And I believe that we just have an amazing future that's absolutely ahead of us. Now, you didn't ask me about my two experiences, why I know that, so I haven't talked about it. But if you ask me, I will talk about it.
Well, yeah,
It's not that it's
go ahead. I'm curious how you're so optimistic. It's hard. Everything seems crazy as hell. Everything seems crazy as hell right now.
I know that. Well, one thing I think why I'm optimistic is I believe the crystal skulls, especially the Mitchell Hedges one. This isn't one of the two experiences, but it was a special one. The last time that I got a chance to sit with it privately, I changed. I became more calm. I became more peaceful. I also had, and I don't know how to describe this. It was like I was meditating in front of the skull. I was like on the ground. It was a low table. But to the right of the skull, or to my right, high up in the air, I felt that there was spiritual beings. I don't know how to describe them. It's like they knew everything about me, but they came in. Somehow the skull opened up a portal, a dimensional door. I don't know how else to say it. And it just made me very calm and peaceful. I don't judge other people. I just go day by day, etc. So this changed me. So that's one of the key why I would say I'm more calm and peaceful. But let's look at the two experiences I've had. That it's like, you cannot talk me out of this future. I know for a fact we're in the process that it's happened. Okay, so the first one was, remember I said I lived in Las Vegas, okay? And what happened was I had just met with some friends and I was going to a McDonald's. In Las Vegas, the streets, you can drive like 60 miles an hour. You know, they have like 6-lane streets inside the city. And there was this van apparently that jumped the curb and struck me, and I was in a coma for 3 days. Okay. Now I heard a loud screech behind me, and I remember my vision went from white to black, and that was it. Next thing I know, it's 2 days later, although I didn't know it was 2 days later, and I wake up and I'm strapped to a hospital bed. And there's a doctor talking to me. Said, "Do you remember the truck that hit you?" And I'm going, "What is he talking about?" Okay, I don't remember being hit by a truck, but I didn't think at that moment when he asked me, well, how did I get from walking on that street to being in this hospital bed? And why do they have me strapped down? And then the next day I came back, and then eventually I found out what happened is this van jumped the curb, hit me. I flew in the air into a gravel area. The van struck a metal light post. So I was able to go back and see the dent in the metal light post. And I just was in a coma. I should have been killed. I could have been killed by that. But I believe that this was a experience that I agreed to before I was born. So this is a paranormal explanation. So eventually, some days later, I start to have some memories, but not total memory of what happened to me. I was somewhere else, most definitely. So these are the memories that I have, and this is how I know what I know. I was at a meeting. I don't know who else was at this meeting. I think there were a lot of galactic beings. But when I go back to the experience, this is the only image I see in my mind's eye. It's a huge room in a meeting with beings. The only way I can compare this is if you went and you saw the first Star Wars movie, not the first one that was released, but in the series, where Princess Amidala goes to, and I forget the name of the planet where all the people meet there. I used to think it was Trantor, but Trantor is the name in this other series I'm watching, Foundation. So at this, where the government meets, there's this big meeting that she's going to, and her planet's being invaded, and she's asking for help. I was at a meeting like that, okay? I was representing humanity. And what my sensing of it is the galactics were looking at humanity and said, we need to find a way to help humanity to go into this time of peace. But how can we help them when we don't live there? We don't understand their rules, their customs, how things work. So what they did is they had a few people, I think there were a few other people like me, from the earth, not in our physical body, but let's say in our etheric or light body. We were taken there, and they were showing us their plans of ideas they had, what they could do to help humanity to come to this time of peace. I saw all of it, and it's inside of me. But the problem was, when it was time for me to return, I remember I was in front of this door. It was totally black in front of me, but I knew if I go through it, I'll go back and I'll go back into my body and I'll go back to the earth. And there's this guy standing there right by the door. Apparently, I knew him very well. And I said to him, please do not blank my memory. I saw so many amazing things. I could go back and tell everybody. I could give them hope and let them know about things that are going to be happening. Nope, I'm sorry. You're not allowed to remember. However, I will tell you this. As the events begin to happen that you saw, that you were shown, you will remember them and you will know what is correct and what is not correct. So when something started, which I'm not allowed to say by name, right? I shouldn't say that. I knew exactly what was happening. I knew what was true and what was not true. When some other things happened around that, the same thing, okay? So the bottom line is, do we trust Joshua? Is he making this up? Is it fantasy? Was it a dream that he had? It's very real for me. Every time I think about this, I see the same images and pictures, and I know the same thing. So that's the first one. The second experience is ongoing right now. And this can only happen if a person who's studying the paranormal understands the following principle. There is no time, there is no space. Why do I say this? Number one, as a paranormal researcher, I've had an opportunity to speak to spiritual mediums. I've had an opportunity to speak to beings that are not from the earth. They come from either other worlds or other dimensions. And I've talked to them about this. And I've asked them, space and time here, is this the same for you? And they tell me no. Everything is happening in the same time and the same space. But for you on the earth, it looks like time and space is separate. Like as you walk forward, you're moving in space, you're moving forward in time. You can't go back in time. Okay. So if there is no time and space, then what I'm about to tell you could be possible. So one day, while we were living in the Atlanta area, I don't know what I was doing. I was around my computer or whatever, doing some work. And a spirit guide shows up, and I feel him on my right side. I just feel a direction when a spirit shows up. This is my gift. I feel the vibrational frequency. And this being says, "My name is Argus." And I say, "Hello, who are you? Why are you coming to me?" And Argus says, "Joshua, I'm you, but I'm your future self. I'm already in the period of time where your world is at total peace and harmony. And this will take place, depends on free will, somewhere between 2037 and 2040, which is not that far ahead in our future coming up." Now, Argus never leaves me. I always sense and feel him, but he can never tell me, how do I go from where I was, this was probably in 2020 or 2021 when I first saw him, or even here 2023 to his future. I can kind of get a sensing of what it's like, but I do not know what are the sequence of events that are going to happen between now and then that take us to where he is. But he absolutely said as me. As a matter of fact, I forgot this. Argus, when I was in Brazil is one of those places where my spiritual gifts amp up tremendously. I was sitting at the computer I brought with me to Brazil, and I was writing this story. And Argus literally wrote through me. And he was writing about the future. And he was talking about that all the adults are parents to all the children. The galactics are walking amongst us. There's total peace and harmony. We have total freedom to explore anything that we want. So he actually wrote through me what it was like in this future time that I'm telling you about. So all I can do is these two experiences. In one of the free ebooks that I have, I mentioned there's 9 of them. So one is the Crystal Skull free ebook. There's a book called Messages from Argus, where I talk about in much more detail these two experiences that I've shown you. So to me, these are powerful experiences. I never stop seeing this positive picture of the future. I'm told constantly by the spirit guides that work with me to share the information. I'm not here to convince anyone that I'm right, that this is the way that it has to be, but to share the information and just let people make their own decision, because that's ultimately what we have to do. We share our experiences with each other, but we let each of us decide, that experience you talked, that's really amazing. I could see that. That helps me. That other experience, just like Ram told me about this ghost, I don't know about this ghost. They don't really resonate for me. I have other things that are more important. This is the most important, I think, experience that we have with each other right now, is we each have profound and magical experiences that teach us things about life and living here. And that's what we should be sharing with each other. And other people will get some value from it. So I'm kind of like Tucker Carlson. I've been watching him. He's doing his own newscasts on X. It's not Twitter anymore. Now it's called X. So I don't know if he's changed it. It used to be Tucker on Twitter. I don't know if it's Tucker on X now or whatever. He's done 13. Weird. Yeah, he's done 13.
Like I have an Xbox, but
yeah. But Tucker says this. He says, "Look, I'm just myself, and I'm just sharing what makes sense to me, what I'm finding that I think would be valuable." And that's the way I am. I just share these things. I know not everyone's going to believe me. I know not everyone's going to agree with me. I know some people will think I'm crazy, but this is the life that works for me. I take it day by day. I have new adventures all the time, new things that come up, new people I meet, new opportunities. So that's just the way that I see it. So
When it
thank you.
comes, yeah, it's great to have you here, and we appreciate you filling in. We had to get a guest on the quick, and you helped us. We really appreciate that. And one thing I wanted to ask you: is there a shamanic factor to these crystal skulls, or are there like tribes and keepers who keep them and things like that with them, and some things like in different tribes and things like a keeper? That's what kind of what you are. I mean, that is what you are pretty much. But is there? It seems like there's a shamanic component to it, right?
Yes, I would personally say after all the people that I've met, which includes indigenous elders also,
Cool.
that if we wanted to know the truth about the crystal skulls, that's who you should go talk to, the indigenous elders, the shamans, because they have the ability, they have the gift to work in a spiritual way with things from Mother Earth, from nature. And obviously, all of these skulls come from Mother Earth because they're all made out of different gemstones, which come from her. So not all of them, but some of them will do sacred ceremony, will do ritual with them. Um, and healing, we already talked about healing comes up with them. So yes, most definitely there is a shamanic thing. Like that little uh, smoky quartz skull I showed you, Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye. When I went to Hungary, I connected with a group of shamanic drummers there. They were a very amazing group. They would get together, they would do their drum. They even gave me a drum, and I'm sort of musical, so I was able to link in. But the head of the shamanic group, he loved Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye. He actually put him in the center of the drumming because he felt that that skull had those shamanic energies. And there was another Native American elder. I met him in Missouri. I forget which tribe. It's one of the well-known tribes. He also took Geronimo with him one evening and did something, and then he did a special drumming for Geronimo as well. So he honored the energy which Geronimo held. So most definitely, this is a very important part of the crystal skulls as well. I absolutely agree with that.
And it's interesting if you look at the UFO hearings and the Skinwalker Ranch show. One thing that struck me is on the show, they're all the time doing experiments with computer equipment, weird technologies I've never heard of, but all the time there's a component, something shuts it down. They always are having technical problems all the time. And the people, like, they brought someone in with like 200 drones and sent them up because they think there's a portal over the ranch, and there's actually some pretty compelling evidence that there is. And but anyway, the drones start acting all crazy, and a lot of the stuff that happens never happens before with a lot of the people that come there. But during those UFO hearings, they said that those UAPs can shut down stuff and radar. So it seems like there might be a faction of beings here that control us or do whatever they want here. And if we get close to them, they mess with us. And people get sick on the ranch. Natives. Some native came there that when he was there, he saw a dog man there, like a humanoid wolf, and he was like a regular, working native dude that had no reason. I don't think he would make it up. He'd be shunned to death, but he got sick at the same place where he saw that creature, and they had to take him off. They're all the time having to take people off and send them to the emergency room because they get sick or whatever. But it seems like there is some kind of component to this alien stuff that maybe controls us from afar or doesn't want us to know it's here. That seems kind of like I don't know, like an a-hole on some level. I mean, it's making people sick with. But it was weird when they said that. I mean, obviously, there's something that's shooting that messes with the radars when they see it with the military and stuff, and messes with their equipment, right? Did you
Definitely.
Yeah.
Many stories are talked about that, especially with nuclear missiles. That they're going to shoot a nuclear missile and all of a sudden it does not function. It stops working, totally shuts down. So, but that would make sense because, if we're all interconnected, the earth, all the beings on the other worlds are all interconnected. And let's say humanity in its stupidity decides to have a nuclear war and blows this planet up, it's definitely going to have a major effect on other intelligent beings and races, etc. So that would make sense that they would shut that down. Because the other thing I was thinking about related to the UFOs is if they really were only here to completely take us over and everything, we would already know they're here and they would be in charge and everything. And that's not happening. So that tells me there are two different groups working, those that are working for our benefit and to help us to create this beautiful world, and others, like you say, who are doing crazy stuff that if you get into their face, then they're going to do something really crazy that could affect you, and maybe are the ones that are involved in the abductions that people report that they're having.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
definitely, the missing 411 David Pilates stuff. I interviewed him a long time ago, and he would never talk about paranormal. Now his documentaries are all pretty much saying it's paranormal. Like he just did one UFO connections, pretty much alluding that they're carrying people off. So it's like there's definitely something to that for sure.
exactly.
It's definitely crazy for. I mean,
So could I briefly mention what the ebooks are about? Would that be appropriate?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so we have, of course, our Crystal Skull ebook, which talks about all the different types of crystal skulls, some of our personal experiences as resources, talks about the skulls that we help people to obtain, etc. The next book that I did was whether we live in a computer simulation. There was a period of time where my wife was visiting her family and I was alone. I had nothing to do. So I go on YouTube and I start running into these videos where scientists were talking about that we might actually live in a computer simulation. So I put information about that and links to the videos for people to watch. The major idea I would share on this is I think the physicist's name is Green. I actually tried to speak to him directly, and his secretary totally shot me down. I couldn't get anywhere close to speaking to him, especially since I have a paranormal background. They didn't want anything to do with that. But this physicist said in a conference, which I watched the video, that he's found the error correction code that's used in different computer systems, the binary systems that we have. He found it embedded in our physical material reality, the exact same code. He was able to find this embedded in our reality. So this is part of the reason why he felt there was a very good chance we could be from a computer simulation. Also, I had another friend also connected to UFOs. He's probably a UFO contactee. He went to Peru, where they have this door, Maru, a gigantic stone door by Lake Titicaca. A shaman taught him a tone to say in front of the door. He went through the door, according to his claim, went on the other side, met scientists, saw this big construction held by large metal beams. It was told, you see what you see in front of you there? That's the universe you came from. We created that. And we didn't put any life into it. And life just showed up magically by itself. So that's just another story I heard that might give some credence to this. So we have a book on Are We in a Computer Simulation? Messages from Argus, which I've talked about, is another one. I have a book where I talk about Tartaria. Tartaria would be a possibility of a very advanced civilization that existed, which actually President Putin has said publicly. Like there's some public talks that he does that I've seen on Telegram that get translated into English. He said, I have maps of the Tartarian Empire, which used to be part of Russia, and he mentioned it by name. So this could be a clue that history, as we've been taught by, in school and everything, it's not totally correct. There's a completely different history to humanity that may be coming out, which is linked to Tartaria. I have another book, only 500 pages, that talks about that the Earth is not a globe, that it's a geocentric model, meaning that the Earth is stationary and everything goes around us, or flat Earth is another terminology used for that. So I've looked into that, And there's a lot of things that I've researched where the idea of gravity, the way we're taught about gravity and where the sun is and the moon and the other planets and everything, it doesn't make total sense. There's some science that speaks against these things. So I just put it all together in a book on that. This last book that I just finished editing is where I talk about kind of like what's going on behind the scenes, different ideas. So it deals with some subjects I'm not allowed to speak about. And there's some special information I put into that one where I discovered it on Telegram, where I think we get a total explanation of everything that's happening in our world and why it happens the way that it does, and why you don't feel as positive as I do. It would also explain to you why a lot of people feel that way. Let's see, did I miss? Oh yeah, I have another book written by another guy, James Lee, that it basically says everything we've taught is a lie. It's a large book, so he wrote that. He gave me permission to share that. MJ12, apparently they have some kind of free ebook out there I found on Telegram. Nobody's told me not to share that, so I think it comes from them. So that would be connected to the UFO information we're talking about, except this is supposed to be the group that oversees, what research does the American government do about UFOs? So that was set up, when Roswell started happening. MJ12 came into existence. So there's a free ebook where people are asking them questions, very profound answers.
Very cool. And what's the site again? One more time for people.
The site is csc.crystalskullexplorers.com. And my email address, that would be the best way to get the free ebooks, crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. So you just write me an email and say, hey, I saw you on Jeffrey and Wham's show, and I want to know the ebooks. And what I did for the ebooks is I put a direct link to every single one on one of our websites. So all the person has to do is say, send me the list and the links, and they can pick which ones they want to take a look at and read. And my motivation for doing the ebooks is because I believe, like I've said at the beginning, we're in a time where we all need to know this kind of information. The more information and knowledge we have about how things works and what's going on, the better we are to prepare for what's coming up to us in the future, so we know what is true and what is not, what not to give away our power to. So that to me is the key.
We got about 7 minutes, then I got to play the little jingles, but I got a question. What's up with Florida and guys with skull fetishes? You remember Lloyd Pye? He lived up here in the Panhandle at some point. I know he's passed away, but did you know him at all? The guy with the skeleton, the skull, the bone skull, wasn't it an actual skeleton?
I know of who you're speaking of, but I never had a chance to speak to him or talk to him.
He was up here in Panama City, I think. He lived up here. He passed away, but I interviewed him a long time ago. I think along the times that I interviewed you, but I didn't know him that well. But he didn't live far from me, which was kind of weird.
I don't know if there's necessarily a skull fetish in Florida. I think what it is there's a lot of spiritual people here. Florida draws a lot of spiritual people to it. Just, even though I haven't been here that long, about 4 months, the people I know here that I've talked to, they all tell me that a lot of spiritual people come. So it's just a tool, like I said, for a lot of spiritual people that they work with. And, so there are other people who have crystal skulls here. There was one crystal skull I heard about that a man actually found, which could be quite old, that he was living in Florida, but then, all of a sudden that connection broke, and I've never been able to get back in touch with him. So I would just say that the high spiritual energies draw crystal skull people here, maybe.
Have you heard anything about ranches in Florida, anything like that, or?
No, not about
I'd like
ranches.
to know where they are. They won't tell me.
The only thing I would say is when I hear the word ranches, I feel like they're in places in the United States that are pretty isolated. Like there are not a lot of people in those areas, and there's these ranches there. So
What I'm wondering is if these alien beings live under these ranches. That's kind of what they're alluding at Skinwalker Ranch for all the military there. But the other thing is Bigelow was out there before, so he had to find out this stuff before. And what did he take from there that they're not telling us? They're always trying to figure out what happened there and bringing on security and personnel that were there and finding out little tidbits about stuff. And then they had George Knapp sitting at the table with a lot of this portal talk and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if a lot of these ranches are just because they're in nature, that maybe some of these beings live, under them or whatever. It seems like that's what they're alluding to with this.
according to Gene Decode, there are a lot of military bases that are connected to the extraterrestrials the governments work with. So I would say there's a very good possibility. Oh yeah, and the other thing that I remember is there's these maps that are being shown of where these bases are under the ground in the United States, and there's a whole mess of them. So yes, most definitely. And the other reason why they have the bases is because they don't want the surface people seeing the activities that they are engaged in the bases. So they put them under the ground.
And then with that last Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, they had the Chris Bledsoe guy on, and they are pretty much alluding. They were all like amazed by this guy, even the CIA former dudes and all that stuff. But they're alluding that they're going to start bringing contactees onto the ranch. So you mix all that with military and colonels and governors and whatever, all this other stuff. And now they're going to be bringing contactees and like televise it. It's just definitely getting weird for sure. I never thought I'd see that, on TV or anything. So it's definitely weird.
Well, there are a lot of good UFO documentaries that are out there that have some unbelievable information. Like I think Disney did a documentary which was pulled.
Yeah,
One of the
I've
presidents,
seen that.
was it Nixon or something like that? One
It's
of
on
the presidents.
YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, but they pulled it. They were going to show it everywhere, and then they pulled that video, and then only like if you know the link to it, can you watch it? I've watched it, and it has pretty amazing information on there. So there are some really good videos that show the absolute truth
Did you ever
out
see
there.
the Dan Aykroyd one? That's on YouTube if you ever want to watch it. Dan Aykroyd, UFOs Unplugged, the actor. It's pretty good.
I think I watched part of it, and then he also has that glass crystal skull too. The vodka,
Yeah.
crystal skull vodka. He talked about that. So, but he made fun of it. So.
Somebody once gave him a Probes Happen Church of Mabus sticker a long time ago, years ago, at a Crystal Vodka signing thing. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But definitely fascinating times, and it's definitely hit some kind of weird acceleration that's creepy. That's for sure with all this stuff. Which, I've always known this stuff existed. I've been through experiences, but when you see the government doing weird stuff and then they're mingling with television shows and all this, you're like creeped out. And they're in Congress now talking about it. So it's definitely it's just creepy.
I think we're at a time now, Jeffrey, where, like I said, the truth is coming out. They can't hold it back anymore. Too many people are having experiences. The things I find the most amazing is individuals with their cell phone or mobile phone are taking video of paranormal experiences manifesting right in front of them. Whether it's a portal that just appears out of nowhere, or I saw another one where a car just appeared out of nowhere, or a person disappears, or strange things in the sky. I saw a video on Telegram where the sky was split. Nobody could explain it. Why is the sky split up there? It was like two totally different sections to it. So a lot of weird paranormal experiences are starting to happen in our world right now, and it cannot be suppressed anymore. It's just, we just have these mobile movie cameras everywhere now. So how can you stop it? I mean,
Yeah.
cancer culture is not enough to stop it. Then you'll have alternative video channels like Rumble, which is what we use for our center's videos, and Telegram. Well, it has good information and bad, but they're not really banning information like what's happened on X or Facebook. I just learned how to word my post on Facebook so they don't stop what I'm sharing. So
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Joshua, we appreciate it so much. Give out your site one more time for everybody, and then we'll close out.
Okay, so the website for the Crystal Skull, cse.crystalskullexplorers.com. Email crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com. So either one. Or if you
We
just look up Crystal Skulls and Joshua Shapiro, you're going to find me. Okay, because
we
I've been out
we
there long
yeah.
enough.
We appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for filling in for us, and thanks for a good show. You helped carry it. I've had the longest week of my life, so I'm glad that we made it to the end, and now I can eat a hamburger and rest. It's been a
Well,
long
Thank
week.
you.
I'm glad your week is at an end, Jeffrey. I know it's been tough.
It's been crazy. We had a dog pass away. We had a crazy RV repairman that seemed like Cable Guy meets Jeffrey Dahmer. So I'm about to get the authorities. It's just been a long week. Then the dog fight. I got a big swollen wrist from trying to break them apart and not use my fist, which I didn't do. I was trying to come down like that. Now it's like it's better, but it was scaring me for a minute there. It was crazy. But and then the storm luckily didn't do anything here. Yours quit, wham.
Yeah, well, I was watching it on the radar, and it just skirted us to the south. So we got a little bit of rain and a little wind, but it wasn't bad. I couldn't tell though at first, you know what I mean? You have to kind of wait to see how they move.
And Joshua, I've been eyeballing that foundation on Apple. I got free 6 months of that free through PlayStation, and I know that's on there. I may have to check that out. Foundation.
It is the most unbelievable series I've seen in a long time. I just watched the last one, season 2, part 4 today. It's a really great story.
We need good sci-fi, so that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's a great series.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's the best thing that I've seen for sci-fi in any movie or any series for a long time.
William, did you ever hear about some Star Trek Continues.com website with like some episodes that got canceled because the dude was sexually harassing or something? If you go to Star Trek Continues.com, it has them on there for free. It looks pretty interesting. I don't know if you.
I don't know. I hadn't heard of that, so I'll check it out.
Someone told me about it, and I was like, "This is weird," but go to that site and don't forget it. It's weird.
What Star Trek Continues.com. Okay, hold on.
I'm not sure what the hell it is, but they said it was a show they did, but for some reason it got canceled. I see the Q guy and I see a bunch of people, but the guy that plays Kirk did some kind of.
It was a web series. Okay.
It says it's fan-made film series.
Yeah, these are fan-made films. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few series made by fans of Star Trek. I saw some.
I'll check that out, actually. I'll check that out.
Somebody told me some weird story about sexual harassment and the Kirk dude in this. I don't know if it's true or where the hell I heard that, but I know I didn't make that up. But I'll have to research that on Google or something to verify that.
I'll definitely check that out because, I mean, with Strange New Worlds and the new truck that they've been putting on Paramount Plus. It's been so controversial among fans. I actually like all the series pretty well. I mean, I don't like every single thing about every one of them, but that's always been the way Trek has been. You like some
Strange
episodes,
New Worlds.
you don't like others. I think Strange New Worlds is really good. I really like it.
It's very good. I'm getting used to the new Kirk. I'm starting. I saw him interviewed by the person who was on Star Trek Next Generation that. Young kid. Now he's no longer a young kid. I saw him interview him. He's a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there were things about Picard I liked and didn't like, but there were really some good ideas in it. And same with Discovery. So it's like I'm not a purist, but I'm very interested in fan fiction. So I will definitely check that out.
I was surprised that Anson Mount dude was the guy from Hell on Wheels. Like, you don't even look like that dude at all. But that was a good show. I love that show. But I better close out. I appreciate it, Joshua. I appreciate it, Wham. And I got to play these jingle jangles, and I got to get a hamburger. So
get a hamburger.
Everybody have a good weekend, and thanks so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Joshua.
Goodbye.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. UPRNTalkRadio.com.
Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology from 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.